All right, the votes are in, so to speak, and there's enough interest in me doing a Sansa Stark video for me to do a Sansa Stark video. I was originally considering doing this video as Beelzebub because this is going to get a bit real, but I don't think Beelzebub would really care enough about this stuff. It would be, whatever, puppets, who else is on this show? There are plenty of other characters. Where's the stabby? Beelzebub would not like Sansa because Sansa's not stabby enough. Arya's Beelzebub's kind of girl. And I also kind of wanted to do this video as myself to make it clear that I actually do, while there will be hyperbole for comedic effect, I actually do hold these positions. This is what I actually believe. And the thing that's really, really frustrating to me about Sansa Stark is that the descriptions that everyone involved with Game of Thrones have of Sansa are not borne out by what Sansa has actually done. And there is so much what we would call, if we were looking at a religious text, exegesis, like commentary on the text regarding Sansa. I think there's been a lot lost about the things she has actually done and who this character is on the page and on screen, not who we want her to be, and not who the writers and the directors and Sophie Turner herself want us to believe she is, but how she's actually written and performed on the screen and on the page. And I want to be clear, no slight on Sophie Turner for this. I know that she has caught a lot of hate personally from Game of Thrones fans, partially about her weight, which is awful to do to a young woman. Who cares? But also about she can't act and all this stuff, and she suffered some mental health stuff as a result. So I want to say this as a preface because that sucks, and even though I don't like the character, and even though I don't think a very young actress was able to rise above the horrible material and schizophrenic direction, I don't want anybody to believe that this is her fault. As I said in the video about Samuel Tarly, Sophie Turner is not one of the better actors on Game of Thrones, but considering the high quality of acting on Game of Thrones, Kit Harington is not one of the better actors on Game of Thrones either. When you're sharing the screen with people like Lena Headey and Peter Dinklage and people of that caliber playing like the roles of the lifetime, yeah, you're gonna take second fiddle. Though, what's her name? Maisie Williams, who plays Arya, is freaking amazing in that part, and I think she's even younger than Sophie Turner. Granted, Arya is a lot more inherently likable, at least to me. She has more to do. She has a really cool arc. Whereas Sansa is, to me, a Cersei Lannister in training, and I don't know if the producers of the show just don't see that, the writers of the show just don't see that, or they're trying to fake it out and make Sansa seem more likable than she is, more like traditionally likable than she is, so it's a big OMG when she turns. But the reality is, if Sansa goes the Cersei route, she hasn't turned. It's always been there. From her very first act, which was lying against her sister for a boy to get the boy to like her so she can have wealth and power that results in the death of her pet. That is Sansa Stark's first major decision in Game of Thrones. And it is cruel and selfish and dishonest, and you're supposed to believe that all of her sort of haughtiness and proper lady stuff comes from her mother, but that thirst for power, that thirst for status doesn't really come from her mother or her father. That's all Sansa, and that's something that really isn't shared by anyone else in her family. Everyone else in the Stark family believes in telling the truth and doing the right thing above all else, even when there's intense consequences for you. Sansa, the exact opposite. She defers to bullies all the time. Joffrey, what the heck's his name? The really bad guy she ended up being married to. God, the guy who named the guy Reek and everything like that. I never remember his name because he's just so disgusting that I cannot remember his name. Ramsay, that's right. But she defers to Joffrey. Oh, Joffrey's wonderful. I love him. Girl, you're 13. You've already seen his cruelty. You're already lying for him. You know he's a bad dude. You don't love him. You love the status that he represents. There was nothing lovable about Joffrey Baratheon. Ever. He was a disgusting piece of garbage and very well played by a very young actor. Unfortunately, I think he's in contention for parts that what's the guy who played Draco Malfoy is also Tom Felton is also in the running for, and Tom Felton's probably going to get the first. But he was really good in that part, which is tough for somebody that age. But we could all write this off as Sansa being 13, which is actually aging her up from the way she was in the books, which I think is part of the problem with the character, that she is still written as like 11-ish, even though she reads as much older because they aged her up. And so she comes across as inherently childish just because the age of the actress and the role she has to play are not meshing. But you could excuse the stuff she did when she was 13, even though it went against her own sister and, was going to get her sister's pet killed. And then Arya was defiant, did the right thing, let her animal go because that's not fair. So, Sansa's own pet, the gentlest of the dire wolves, ends up getting killed instead. And that wasn't a wake-up call for her. When an innocent is executed, that's a pretty powerful symbol, and usually in fantasy, that is paid forward. And one could even argue that if Sansa had just told the truth in that moment, then a lot of the tragedy that befell the Stark family might not have happened. Because if Sansa had never been in King's Landing to marry Joffrey, then, well, Ned Stark never would have been executed. Robb Stark never would have gotten a message from his sister and refused to bend the knee, all that stuff. Like, pretty much every bad thing that has happened to the Stark family has been kind of Sansa's fault, including Jon Snow feeling alienated from the Starks because Sansa taking after her mother wasn't very nice to him. Now, again, all of this can be dismissed because she was a child, but she hasn't grown up. Some people complain that Sansa is stupid. Sansa is not stupid. She has a cruel streak. She is immature and she is not wise. And even as she gets older, she continues to be cold and cruel to people she thinks she can get away with being cold and cruel to. Meanwhile, she submits to bullies over and over and over and over again. She's awful to Jon Snow even when they're reunited at the beginning of season 8. Like, she doesn't even try to like Daenerys. Doesn't even try. She has learned nothing. She is cold and just instantly tension, even though there's a freaking war coming, and as Jon Snow points out, they need her. She's oh God, what's Reek's real name? I don't remember. But that guy, I get confused at all the names, but that guy, She's awful to him too when she doesn't need to be. She takes out the fact that she's being, married again for a political alliance. And she takes it out on him instead of, keeping it in the right place and, taking it out on the right person or not taking it on anyone at all. And sorry, I'm distracted by trying to remember what that dude's name is. It's driving me crazy. Theon Greyjoy, that's his name, finally came to me. But the thing that really made me realize that Sansa, as written, is not a good person is the way she treats Tyrion Lannister. Tyrion Lannister, by his status and by his social responsibilities, didn't have to consider Sansa at all. They were forced into a marriage that was supposed to produce children. The sick thing about Game of Thrones that is disgusting and poignant in the same way is the way Ramsay behaved on their wedding night is the way that the men of Westeros are, quote unquote, supposed to behave. How many times has a man bragged / menaced a woman with, I'm going to put a baby in your belly? Women are not expected to resist on their wedding night. So the fact that Tyrion saw her as a person and not just a baby maker and refused to make her do something she didn't want to do because he knew the wedding was a farce and that wasn't fair to her. And Tyrion Lannister is like the most respectful Game of Thrones man for all women, not just the women that quote unquote matter, but all women. He was kind to her and decent to her, and she treated him like crap. She was sulky and sullen and not at all of the mind of this is a bad situation that we need to get through together. And the first chance she gets, she abandons him to save her own skin. And then, when they reunite in the first episode of season 8, he tries to be very mature, very kind, very, very complimentary of her. And she's still an ice queen. Ironically. And if their eventual intention is to turn her into the new Cersei, and she's finally the one that stabby Cersei and usurps her power, great. They've telegraphed that from the beginning. But I'm sick of people going, oh, Sansa's so sweet. Sansa's so smart. Sansa's so, what everybody's saying is Sansa's such a proper lady. Meaning she embodies every single friggin' stereotype of what proper women about how women who woman right do. Right? They're obedient and sweet in the face of a bully, snarky and mean to people they can pick on. She does what she's told, but she just doesn't like it. And that, I don't like it. I'm raging against this. This is what makes her strong and smart and brave. No, it doesn't. Because when she gets the chance to do anything that's actually right and good, instead of saving her own skin, she doesn't do it. And she gets herself into dangerous situation after dangerous situation more times than she can count, and ends up having her bacon saved by somebody else who is more heroic and more virtuous, and they usually end up paying as a result. Like, she never would have gotten away from Ramsay without help. She never would have gotten away from Joffrey without help. And yet she's so bitter and abused and men are so awful. She misses, other than her own half-brother, or she didn't treat quite well. She doesn't see the kindness that a lot of men showed towards her because she was too busy stomping on them. And this is because, and this is why I did things like the video yesterday, and a lot of people kind of missed the point, but the idea of a too perfect character, this Mary Sue, I think Sansa is in many ways a too perfect character as written by a male author who does not really understand women or really believe that women are accountable to the same standards that men are. Because in order to accept that Sansa is a good girl who has just had a rough go of it, you have to make her completely unaccountable for all the cynical, nasty, social climbing, selfish choices she made. And Sansa, at the end of the day, is selfish. She's no better than Cersei. She's actually less good than Marjorie Tyrell, because at least Marjorie Tyrell actually did things. She defied her handlers. She went out, she was a fake lady of the people, but she still did it. She didn't wait to be given permission. And Sansa always waits to be given permission by people she's afraid of. And in doing so, she shits all over the people that actually have her best interests at heart and are actually trying to treat her like a human being. And I know this is not what we're supposed to think of Sansa. I know this is not the intent of Sansa. But this is why I get mad at this whole Mary Sue, Mary Sue, Mary Sue thing. Because Sansa is a too perfect woman in that she's obedient on the surface and passive and pretty and feminine but then she's, manipulative and cunning, and this makes her smart. She's just too perfect as a woman. But we don't see that as a problem because I don't think anybody aspires to have Sansa's life. Now, unfortunately, if you read the stuff online, some people actually do. And Sansa's a very polarizing character because she's written as a polarizing character. And it really breaks my heart to see the actress not understand why people are attacking her online, because it's the same reason people attack Skylar White online. She was set up to be a polarizing character. Everybody loves Arya because she's a rebel and she does the right thing and she stands up for herself and she's an iconoclast and she set her own path and she's made choices that we can understand are selfless and for the greater good. Sansa's a good girl, and she shows the lie that is the good girl, in that good girls aren't good. Good girls are usually conniving manipulators because they're given no choice. Because they stand up and actually make a firm decision about something and say what they mean, they're not considered a good girl anymore. And the reason that Sansa is so polarizing, so divisive, is because some people see that and go, that's everything I don't want to be. And then some people see that and relate to that because they don't see that in their own behavior, they are being a good and proper lady. And that means they are stepping on throats without even realizing it. And I feel really bad for Sophie Turner. I hope she goes on and finds a role that is better written, and she sort of discovers herself as an actress and as a person, because she doesn't really seem to be there yet. She's starting to come into it. I don't think Phoenix is the role for that, because there's not much there either, the way it seems to have been written. But Sansa Stark is just a bad character. And again, why do we embrace certain overly perfect female characters? Because really, if you think about it, what flaws does Sansa Stark really have? People called her fat online because they were looking for something to pick on because they couldn't find anything else. Sophie Turner is not fat by any stretch of the imagination. Oh, she had bad skin. They're picking away at this character because she's too perfect. Why do we treat these two perfect female characters as acceptable? Because they're maintaining the status quo. They're not rocking the boat in terms of wish fulfillment. Oh, we understand that women want to social climb through marriage, and that's the role they have in society, and except every other female character on Game of Thrones, it shows that there's actually other ways to go about that. Cersei's freaking miserable. Marjorie Tyrell got, blowed up. The characters that have endured, people like Daenerys, people like Arya, are the ones that have defied those gender norms. And you know, I think there's going to be a comeuppance for Daenerys eventually. But at least she made choices, and some of them were cruel and vicious and maybe not thought out, but at least they were choices that she owned. And she didn't do that because she was a proper lady. She was doing that because she was a ruler who was on a war footing and looking to freaking conquer. She owns it. I'm okay with Daenerys, even though I do not like the way they sexually objectified the character in season 1. There is no need to have a giant close-up on, what's her name? Emily, the actress who plays her. There's no reason to have a giant close-up on her naked breast. That made no sense. She's really good. She's a really good actress. But, you know, based on what she was going through all through that show, wow, you know, much respect to her. I feel bad that I don't remember her name. I'm having that all day. You may have noticed. But yeah, not a fan of Sansa. I think I've laid out my case. If you like this content, help support this channel, become a monthly patron, patreon.com/LeannaK. Somehow I think this video is going to do better than yesterday's, but we'll see. This will be an interesting experiment. Thanks for watching.